Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my shop. Today's October 12th, and this is my weekly shop update. So first off, happy Thanksgiving to everyone if you're in Canada, and if you're here in the States, happy Columbus Day. Slightly less exciting. So I got a bunch of stuff going on in the shop this week, starting with the farmhouse table. So this week I took the remainders of what I had left of my slabs, and I cut them up for the matching benches that are going to go with the table. I was able to get just about all the stock out of those slabs I was going to need, with the exception of some smaller parts. It's going to work out that I'll be able to use some of the offcuts from the bench top material to laminate together to get the 4 inches thick material that I need for like the legs and I think it's it, the legs and the rails on those benches, which are not that long. Yeah, so the rails are like 14 inches long, and the legs are only 15 inches long, and that's the rough dimension. So not a whole lot of big pieces. I can get those out of glue-ups from offcuts from the other smaller slabs. So I think it's going to work out really well. All that stock is resting inside now, so I can focus on finishing the crib, obviously, and then getting started on that sofa table build. So another thing that I worked on this week, and you can kind of see it behind me, is the top for the shop desk. I finally got a finish applied to that, and I did a video about that actually. That was the first time that I used a water-based finish. I used this one, General Finishes High Performance, and I did a video about my first time using this, my experiences with it, and that kind of thing. And then I also did a slight twist on it because I'm so used to using oil-based finishes, and the reason I wanted to try a water-based finish for this was because the water-based finishes don't impart any hue to the wood or any additional color. Like an oil-based finish will add some yellows and oranges and reds kind of to the wood. So I did make a couple samples of different types of wood just to see the difference between an oil-based and a water-based finish. So I think cherry was the most striking. I think it's a little closer here. So that's the same board. This is a water-based finish, and this is the oil-based finish. And you can see that the oil-based finish really brought out the figure that's there in the board. The water-based really doesn't even look like there's any finish on it, to be honest. Like here is the natural, no finish piece of wood they came from, and then that's the water base. So it doesn't really add much of any color to it, which if you want that look, it's good, but I don't really care for it on a cherry, and I don't really care for it on walnut either. So here's walnut. And it does look a little more drastic in person, but this is the oil base and this is water base. I just don't really care for the look that much, but that's okay. Because what it looks really good on, the water base, was maple. It kept it super white. Well, pretty much white. It's nowhere near as yellow as it would be if I used an oil base on it. So that's exactly what I was going for. I wanted a really light finish, or I wanted to keep it as naturally looking as possible. So the water base really does that. Keeps things looking exactly like they do when you sand them, or when you're done sanding them or finish prepping them. So that video, I actually got most of it edited already, so it will be out this week for sure, because it's just about done already. And the other thing I worked on in the shop this week was the crib. I got a lot of progress done on it, and I'm getting really close to being done with it. Let me bring you over here, and I'll show you some of the progress and some of the details. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the rear of the crib with the spindles installed. Well, all except one spindle up here. I didn't film any of these spindle installations, so I'm going to film this one here as the last install. Let me grab a spindle. So the spindles, as they come off the lathe, look like this. They have the ends still attached, and what I had to do was figure out where on these spindles I need to cut them so that they're a 1/2 inch wide, so they'll fit into the 1/2 inch holes that I made in the rails. And that was really easy to do. I just used a caliper to measure where that measurement was, and then I cut them a little longer, and then they fit pretty much perfectly. A lot of them did. And one thing I did on one side, so this side here has a slightly bigger taper because I went further with the router in this direction. and that allowed me to have a narrower part down here. So I cut it with a little bit of a bias towards this side. So this side fits perfectly into the hole. So when it bottoms out in the hole, it fits at a 1/2 inch wide, or it is a 1/2 inch wide when the bottom of the spindle is bottomed out in the hole. And then on the other end, it's not quite small enough to go into the hole. So on that end, I used my dowel plate, and I just pounded it through the dowel plate for 3/8 of an inch, or a little less than that, because that's the depth of the hole, to get that end of the spindle to the perfect size to fit into the other side of the hole. And that worked out really well, and was pretty much really simple. So that is going to be the same process on the front assembly, but what's going to be a little bit more of a drastic difference is when I go to do these sides, because they are angled, right? So here is the side rail, and this is the side upper rail. And if I line them up, you can see that as it comes down, as the spindles come down the back towards the front, they're going to get shorter. So I'm going to have to deal with that, because they're going to have the same kind of setup here with the same tapers on them. So I'll have to cut them and fit them all individually to that area. But the other thing I'll have to worry about here is that now when I go to divide out the space for the spindles, the spacing is going to be different on the top and the bottom. I can't just lay them out individually or as one piece or whatever with the same settings. I would have to lay out the spacing here for my holes, and then I'll have to square up to this one to actually indicate where the holes are, because I can't just walk the same distance across, because this length is longer than this length. So, well, here, there you go. So this one is actually longer here than this. So I think I have a pretty good solution for that. I'll space them out on this lower rail, which is, horizontal. And then once I have my layout, I'll just square a line up to this one, and that'll indicate my hole location for the top rail. And then I'll just drill this hole at an angle, the same angle that this shoulder is cut at. And it should work out just fine. So that's the only real complicated part of this crib build. The rest of it's all just Morse and tenons and, spindles, or dowels, I guess. So pretty simple stuff. This is just about done. And the biggest thing I have to do right now is make all the spindles for the front rail, or for the front assembly, which is right here. So there's the front assembly. You can see the other thing I did was I added these tapers to the legs, just to give it a little bit more of a stylish look. They taper down to square, so they're the same width as they are thick at the bottom of the taper. I think that gives a nice little look to it. So, productive week on this project. So yeah, I think that's about it for me this week. Really, really productive week, it feels like. But at the same time, not. So it's kind of a funny balance. Well, who knows? I feel good about it. So that's all I have for this week. Thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments about the crib or the farmhouse table or the finishing, please feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking.